get into our floor poses now as we move towards the latter part of our April practice. Last month we did a king pigeon pose to open up our hips, and we're going to move into the same posture today. If you need a couple of pillows or cushions, it's good to grab them now because they can be excellent supports to help us into the king pigeon pose. Come to hands and knees, and then from here, bring your right knee forward so it's behind the right wrist. We're going to take the foot so that it's out towards the side, roughly behind the left wrist. From here, you want to extend through that back left leg, so the leg's nice and long. If you're like me and your bottom doesn't connect to the ground, then it's great to use a cushion or even a book or a block to support your right buttocks here. As you sink down, we want to find a nice even plane with the hips, so we don't want one hip lower than the other. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the sacrum and the lower back. Now some of you, this is quite a strong pose, so you might not go any further than this, but for some of us, we can always drop down to our elbows, and some of you can come all the way forward. It's really important to find a place in the posture that's comfortable for you, and I know for me, this is where I like to use my book or my block, and I just lean on my elbows here. Doesn't matter how deep you go into this pose, what matters is that you're able to hold it for a few minutes, or potentially for a few minutes anyway. There's a gentle pushing down of the front knee and extending through the back leg, maintaining some integrity, subtle muscle engagement to keep the joints protected, steady and stable. This is a wonderful pose to check in with where you're at and how you're feeling, especially because it asks you to be still. And so if you're resisting being here for a few moments, that might tell you something about your state of mind right now. These are all opportunities for self-observation and tuning in. If you'd like some extension today, you can always bend the back foot and draw the heel towards the buttock. If you'd like to come back and reach for that foot, you can always do that as well. Now that's only if it feels good, only if you feel steady and comfortable in the pose. If that's not right for you, come back to the previous version. Releasing the extension if you've taken that option, making sure your hips are steady. Press down into the hands, engage your core, and come back to your hands and knees position. Switch the hips from side to side, or maybe take some circular actions with the hips, finding some balance and equilibrium first before we move to the other side. So from here, this time it's the left knee that comes forward and opening across the front shin, extending through the back right leg. And then remembering, if you need a support, just grab that and put it where you need. All of us are different, so we'll all look a little bit different in this position. Some of us will be up, some of us might drop down to the elbows, some of us might fold forward all together. Take the variation that feels good for you, remembering that there's no one right way for any particular yoga pose to look. As much as we have roughly the same structures in our bodies, each of us at the end of the day has a different skeleton. Some of us have bigger, deeper hip joints. Some of us have very narrow, very shallow hip joints. And so the structure of our joints and our bones, while in essence similar, for each of us they're different, and that will facilitate greater range of movement for some people and smaller range of movement for others. Remembering to use this as a moment to check in, observe, notice. What are you feeling? What sensations are present in the body? What are the flutterings in the mind? If you'd like to take the extension, feel free to do that. First, drawing the back heel towards the back buttocks, maybe coming back to the hands, maybe reaching around with your right hand to take hold of the right foot as you draw that right foot in towards the buttock. Remember, if you take an extension and all of a sudden you're huffing and puffing and the breath starts to labour, that's your body's way of telling it's a little bit too much. So roll back and come back to the previous version of the pose. When you feel ready, releasing the foot if you've taken the extension. And if you're folding forward, we want to gently come back to an upright position. Just remove any blocks if you've been using them and come back to hands and knees. Remembering, maybe swishing the hips, rolling in one direction and then in another, just finding a release. From here, making sure that you're fully on your mat so that you can engage through some dynamic movement today. We're going to tuck our toes and lift our hips, come to a downward facing dog. And then when you feel ready, take a big breath in, and on the exhale, draw the hips forward and the heart pulls through the shoulders. This is an upward facing dog. Gently breathe in and slowly breathe out, bringing the hips forward, but keep the thighs switched on. The thighs are nice and strong and active. Gently inhale, slowly exhale. Inhaling, downward facing dog, hips up and back, open through the backs of the legs. Exhale, upward facing dog, lovely opening across the chest, but active legs so you don't crunch into the lower back. One more time, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, downward facing dog. And just dropping your knees to the floor, bottom to your heels. Take the hands by the feet, drop the forehead to the floor. And stay here in your child's pose.